Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today we are looking at Ghostmaker, part of the DC Multiverse line by McFarlane Toys. Alright, so I know I've been saying this a lot lately with some of my other action figure lines, but this is a figure I've been anticipating for a long time. Ghostmaker was a new character to the DC universe. He was introduced, I believe, in Batman issue 100 toward the tail end of the Joker War. It's a character created by James Tynion IV and Jorge Jimenez. Ghostmaker, he's essentially a vigilante. It was a character that Bruce Wayne met during his younger years when he was on excursion. So for those of you that are kind of familiar with Batman's history, there's that period of time before Bruce Wayne became Batman, and then he traveled the world all over, seeking the guidance and teachings of, like, some of the great war masters and, like, along those kind of lines. He was, like, trained to be, like, different disciplines in martial arts and how to fight and how to utilize different tools and whatnot. And during that time period, he came across Ghostmaker, Minkoa Khan, who in many ways was like Bruce Wayne. I believe he came from a place of privilege, and he had an affluent family, much like Bruce. But I think where their differences kind of came across was their, kind of like their morals and ethics. Whereas Bruce was more about, wanting to become a vigilante, to take back Gotham and do the right thing. Ghostmaker was, I believe, a character that was more in love with the thought of combat and the art of war. And at some point, the two had a falling out, and it wasn't until much later in adulthood that, they've kind of re-picked up where they left off. And, I think begrudgingly, Ghostmaker joins Batman in his crusade to save Gotham. So this is a figure that I've been wanting since the character's debut, which I think was in the late 2020, because I think Joker War ended, I think, early 2021, and he, like I said, he was introduced towards the tail end of that. So we're gonna check out this figure. It looks great. I'm really curious what's going on with the legs, because his pants kind of have that very pillowed kind of look where it looks really fluffy, but I'm really interested to see how the articulation works here. The character's costume design looks awesome. It looks really true to how he kind of looked like in the comic book. And I do have a shot of his first appearance. So this is at the last page of Batman 100 when they first introduced the character. And this is artwork by artist Jorge Jimenez. And as you can see, they do a great job of recreating his body armor. So let's get started. On the back, Ghostmaker, DC Future State. I'm kind of curious as to why they chose Future State as the subheadline, because like I mentioned, the character was introduced toward the tail end of the Joker War. On the back, very curious also, because just seems to be missing the kind of roll call at the bottom. The back here is just completely dedicated to Ghostmaker. There's no roll call of other figures in this wave. Some nice fig photography. It's a nice close-up of the character, and it's really cool because you see all the crazy texture on his uniform, and it almost takes on the appearance of looking like cloth, not plastic, which is great. Alright, let's take out Ghostmaker. Really excited to check this guy out. Much like the other McFarlane figures, you get an action figure stand and also the trading card. Ghostmaker comes with 2 katana blades, as you can see right here, and the figure looks fantastic. And let's take them out. Alright, so we have Ghostmaker. He comes with two blades, like I pointed out earlier. Much like the G.I. Joe Classified Series figure of Storm Shadow. The two blades are of actually different lengths. You have the full-size katana on our right over here. And then you have the shorter blade on the left. Nice sculpted detail on the handle. The wraps are sculpted very clean, and as you can see, there's even looks like there's some slight highlighting on the handle as well. A nice sheen of silver for the blade, and there's kind of like a dimple sculpted in throughout the length of the blade right there. And they're different lengths. I'm not sure if there's storage on the body. Yeah, there is. So on his back, Ghostmaker has two sheaths for the blade, as you can see right there. The upper sheath is for the shorter blade. Just nice, snug fit. These aren't going to come out. And then the longer sheath is for the longer blade. Pretty self-explanatory. And as you can see, they're held in place really well. And let's take a look at Ghostmaker. Let's get him into focus. Alright, there we go. Alright, so as you can see, his costume is predominantly white. It's almost kind of like it's not like a pure bright white. It's a little bit on the cooler side, a little bit on a very, very light gray. His body armor is also highlighted with a very dark charcoal kind of gray, as you can see with the body armor on his chest and shoulders, and also on his helmet. Nice texturing on the darker pieces. As you can see, there's a lot of like wear and tear and scratches, especially on the shoulder. That looks awesome. They kind of try to recreate that glow effect on his like opticals right there with the blue, and then the white highlight over the blue. And as you can see, there's his helmet has the dark gray with the black stripe above it. And you can also see the texturing throughout his uniform here on his hood. He has his logo on his right pauldron right there. Beautiful texturing. I kind of feel like, so with his harness right here in the comic book, it kind of has that glowing effect like this with the blue. As I mentioned earlier, they try to recreate that with the eye here, and it's very faint, but it looks like they tried to recreate that effect on the harness right there. It'd be nice if it, it had a little bit more punch to it, but it's decent. He has the harnesses and straps running down his abdomen. Armored codpiece. And then the legs are kind of like pillowed out with a beautiful texture. There's actually two textures. There's kind of like a much more distressed leather look up here in black. And then, yeah, this really fine micro texture. And then as he gets to the knees, his pants kind of pillow outward. And then they kind of pull back in as it gets towards the lower legs and the shins. Beautiful texture on the cape. Yeah, really, really fine. Excellent looking figure. He has body armor on the side of his legs, as you can see right there. Again, very distressed, very worn, lots of scratches, battle scarring. Articulation-wise, this guy's head rotates left and right. Does he look down? Yeah, he looks down. It's pretty decent. It's not as far as I'd like, but it's a lot better than some figures we've gotten in the past. Looking up is kind of an issue because he hits the back of his hood right here. One possible way, you could fix that if you want to give this more range of movement. Not that I would do it myself, but if you want to chance it, you could possibly take an X-Acto knife and cut the hood off. But then it might kind of mar his look. It just depends on how bad you want that extra motion. But, he looks up all right. But it just seems like, his head's always going to hit the back of the hood right there. His arms rotate. And even though he has the shoulder pauldron on here, it's actually a separate piece that's glued to the arm. So you don't have to worry about it interfering with the rotational movement. His arms go out, and again, since this is a softer plastic and it's not connected directly to the top of the body piece, you can roll this up and this could overlap the top. He has a bicep cut right there. It's hidden because of the texture, which is nice. Double pinned elbows, as you can see right there. It affords him a lot of movement. Articulated wrists, and what I appreciate about the forearm guard here is that it covers up that horrible ball joint that a lot of McFarlane figures have, like especially around the wrist and ankles. I think he has an ab crunch. He does have an ab crunch, but unfortunately, due to the fact that his chest armor kind of comes in over and points down, it's going to kind of like hinder it a little. This just kind of fell off. All right. His back, you can see where the break is, and then you can arch back also. This here is a very harder plastic up here, his upper chest, as opposed to his abdomen, which is a very, soft, spongier plastic. I'm very curious because it feels like this guy might just be like a very bare endoskeleton underneath. And I have a feeling that this is pretty much more of like a rubber sleeve, which might be the case. We could get a peek underneath a little. Yeah, so as you can see there, that's how his inside is. It's a much thinner, narrower mid-torso. And then it's kind of like that rubber diaper that McFarlane figures have. His legs could kick up. They could kick out pretty far. That's impressive. And again, the construction on the legs is very much like, you've seen this before with other McFarlane figures. The joint system is it's almost very universal with a lot of the McFarlane stuff. The upper legs, despite its appearance, it's a much harder, dense, thick plastic. So even though it looks very soft and pillowed out, it's actually a very solid piece right here. The knee, it looks like it just might be single jointed. There's a big fat joint right there. And it doesn't afford a whole lot of movement, as you can see. It's only going to bend about this much. There is articulation at the ankle right there. Allows it to rotate and go up and down. And much like other McFarlane figures, pretty extreme toe articulation. And then you have the two foot sockets for the stand right there. So yeah, very solid look for the figure. Again, let's pull out the comic book. So here's a quick brief description on Ghostmaker. This was, I believe, published back in 2001 when they first introduced the character. This was a single-page editorial, kind of spotlighted the Ghostmaker character, talked about his creation, and let's see if I can find the actual page where he's introduced. So he was introduced in the issue of, I think it was Batman 100. It was like the tail end of the Joker War. I don't think the Joker War officially ended until issue 100, even though it wasn't labeled as. Here we go, issue 100. So here's his first appearance. And as you can see, the action figure does a really great job of recreating the look. It's very streamlined, very sleek. In some ways, you can kind of argue that maybe the character, visually, or even like, I guess his purpose is also kind of like possibly inspired by Moon Knight, possibly, with the all white, the vigilante, the affluent wealth. And let's see him in action. I think it was Batman 102. Yeah, so in issue 102, he kind of takes on Batman. There's some interesting characters introduced during this time period, especially during the Joker War. The new villain Punchline was introduced. There was Clown Hunter, which I really wish McFarlane Toys would make Clown Hunter, which is this character right here. I kind of think that, with the way McFarlane engineers their action figures, they'd come up with something really dynamic looking. And the sculpting on a Clownmaker figure, I think, would look awesome. There's some other cool characters introduced, post Joker War, like Miracle Molly and Peacemaker. Again, I think McFarlane would do a great job if they chose to make action figures of those characters. And here we have Ghostmaker again, from back when he was younger, taking on a younger Bruce Wayne. So yeah, really cool character. I'm glad they have an action figure of him. For me, it's like one of those deals where prior to McFarlane Toys announcing a figure, I was kind of on the fence about whether or not I was going to make a custom. Just because it seemed like he would be not like it'd be an easy custom, but it'd be very doable. It's not like he's that overly complicated. Alright, so how do I rate this figure on a scale of 1 to 10? For me, visually, he looks like what he's supposed to look like. So visually, for me, he's perfect. But if I had to rate him, I'd have to say anywhere between an 8 to an 8.5. Just because I kind of feel like they could have done, a little bit better articulation with his knee here. For me, this kind of hurts the figure a lot, especially if you want to get him in really dynamic poses. It doesn't afford a whole lot of range of motion, as you can see. But it's, in certain areas where it lacks, it gets a little, is pretty extreme. This is probably one of the furthest kicks I've seen on an action figure in a long time. So yeah, there's, I don't know, I might take it back. I think the highest I'd rate this guy would probably be a 9. It might be a little bit generous, though. But it's a great figure. So, is this something you need? I'm going to say yes. He's a very unique character. Despite the fact that the McFarlane DC Multiverse line is, like, overflowing with Batman-centric characters, I don't think it hurts at all to, like, have this guy and add him to your collection. He's part of the Bat family, the ever-growing, group of vigilantes that have joined Batman in his crusade. And it looks awesome. I think it's a great figure. Alright, so let's wrap this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber viewer, thank you so much for continued support. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.